Welcome to the Calm Analytics channel. I'm Boris Tezenghausen. It's November 2nd today, and we have a very eventful episode. In this episode, the Russian port of Tuapse is on fire after drone strikes. Tankers and port terminals are burning. This is how Putin is being deprived of money to wage war. 5 substations were hit in Russia in a single night. The General Staff of the Russian Federation is firing generals. The head of the General Staff is looking for scapegoats for the failure of the offensive in Donbass. And the Russian Orthodox Church has released a new anthem of patriarchal cringe, and about how an Il-76 plane from Russia flew to Venezuela via a strange route. What did it bring and why did it come? Drones over Kleine-Brogel at the NATO nuclear base. And about how robots, housekeepers, and Elon Musk's Optimus are already entering Donbass into our homes. And also about how Elon Musk's father really wants to get a Russian passport. All this and more in today's episode. There will be a lot of interesting things, especially if you're new to the channel. Subscribe so you don't miss the next episodes. The port city of Tuapse in the Krasnodar region on the Black Sea coast was attacked by drones, and the Krasnodar region's emergency headquarters reported that the port infrastructure was damaged and there were fires. How come? Usually they write that everything was shot down, that debris fell somewhere, but there was no damage. But when any resident of Tuapse can look out the window and see everything burning at the oil terminal where tankers carry Russian oil under sanctions, there's no point in lying anymore. So, the official statement is that after the drone attack, tankers and the oil terminal were damaged. And fragments of drones were found in the port. Well, actually, the strike hit the central trestle, which is the main hub for oil transshipment, right at the moment when a tanker was being refueled there. Let's watch this video. They've started actively targeting ports and terminals, and this is another step up in escalation. Ports are exactly that. That's where Koshchei's death is hidden, and that's also where Putin's death, in a symbolic sense, can be found. It is from this very place that he obtains the money needed to support and continue this war. Now, let's take a moment to examine in more detail how everything was shut down. We'll watch another video that shows exactly what happened during these events. In general, this strike is a separate signal to the owners of the Shadow Fleet tankers that they shouldn't help Russia circumvent sanctions, otherwise they could lose their tankers. And the attack on this port in Tuapse puts a huge spotlight on Russian port infrastructure. Not just this port, but especially those that are used to load sanctioned oil. So the strategic target is the ports. You shouldn't be bringing your tankers to Russian ports. So the settlement of Gerasimov, Lipetsk region, a strike on a 500 kilowatt substation, the Lipetsk substation. This is the connecting link between Novovoronezhskaya, Lipetskaya, and Lipetskaya Yelets. This is a serious substation, a very serious one. It supplies power to industrial enterprises, in particular the Novolipetsk metallurgical plant. Well, at night, let's sum up, last night, a record number of substations were hit in Russia. A total of 5, with a combined capacity of 5,066 megavolt amperes. This was reported by the commander of Ukraine's unmanned systems forces, Magyar. So, in general, Magyar's sanctions are working, and as I understand it, appetite comes with eating. In other words, they started with 1 substation, and now they're hitting 5 a night. This, let me remind you, is a response. A response to Putin for the ongoing strikes on Ukraine's energy infrastructure. They're showing him that things will fly back in the other direction as well and will hit their target. And in addition, yesterday the thermal power plant in the city of Orel was attacked. They hit it hard, so much so that it won't be easily forgotten. And now about the Pokrovsky direction. I mentioned yesterday that Putin is up to something there, trying to bring in some journalists. Yesterday we found out that the head of the Russian Armed Forces General Staff, Gerasimov, is firing generals and commanders. Brigades for failures on the Okratine and Pokrovsky directions. That is, the commander of the 51st Army, Lieutenant General Melchakov, has been removed from his post. And also removed from his post is the commander of the 132nd Separate Motorized Rifle Brigade of the 51st Army, Colonel Naimushin. So just like that, Epaulets don't just fly off for no reason. People aren't removed from their posts for nothing. It's all because of failure. Due to heavy losses in the brigade's personnel, and this is already on the Pokrovsky direction. And here, look at what's happening. Gerasimov, who sold Putin on the idea that we're about to take Pokrovsk any moment now. Now he realizes that instead of bringing Pokrovsk on a silver platter, his own head is about to be served up on one. So he finds scapegoats, those very same fall guys, and says, it's them. They're the ones who failed. Me? I'm just sitting here. I don't know anything. I was deceived. I deceived you, and so on. That's what's happening. Friends, let me remind you, we are currently running an important fundraiser for our combat medics, for the 1st Medbat, the 1st Medical Battalion, for the guardian angels who, out there on the front lines, risk their lives to save the lives of our defenders. Right now, they have an urgent need for ventilators, artificial lung ventilation devices. We are currently raising funds for a Falco 201 IVO ventilator for the frontline surgical team of the 1st Separate Medical Battalion. Our medics have recorded a video message for us and for you. Please listen to it.
Апарат штучної вентиляції легень – незамінна річ для надання невідкладної допомоги в умовах бойових дій. Ми в першому окремому медичному батальйоні використовуємо спеціальні портативні системи забезпечення для використання у військових умовах. Це найкращий інструмент, але, на жаль, він не призначений для такого навантаження та роботи в безперебійному режимі, яка є в наших умовах зараз. Тому ці системи починають виходити з ладу. Через це ми потребуємо додаткових звичайних стаціонарних апаратів ШВЛ. Залишитися без них не можна, адже це призведе до серйозних наслідків. Вартість одного апарату – 730 тисяч гривень, а всього потреба є у 8. Разом з каналом Бориса Тізенгаузена оголошено збір на 2 апарати ШВЛ для передових хірургічних груп 1-го окремого медичного батальйону. Часу обмаль. Розраховуємо на вашу підтримку.
And this is exactly the case when your donation saves someone's life. So this is precisely that case. The link to the fundraiser is in the description of this video. There's private, there's mono, and PayPal for those who want to help from abroad. I want to say a huge thank you. I always express my deepest gratitude to everyone who helps. I see each and every one of you and say a personal thank you, both from myself and from our medics, our guardian angels. Here's a QR code as well. It also leads to the fundraiser in case that's more convenient for someone. And today I came across a new masterpiece from the Russian Orthodox Church, where I found a video of one of the clergymen, as they call themselves, broadcasting the following. He just sort of disappeared there, answering a parishioner's question. And he says, a woman cannot exist on her own. It turns out she is a helper to man, which means she is not a person. So it turns out, and most importantly, he adds that without men she is nobody. She was made from man, and without a man she is nobody, as if women have gotten it into their heads that they're somehow separate individuals. I think, my God, no other organization can generate more cringe than the Russian Orthodox Church. They're the champions of nonsense, heresy, and cringe, aren't they? A very interesting piece of news has come up. A Russian military IL-76 plane landed in Venezuela, having taken a very convoluted route. The Telegraph reports this, citing Defense News. So according to the publication, the plane arrived in Caracas and its flight path was very strange. It flew through Armenia, Algeria, Morocco, Senegal, and Mauritania. And only after that did it head to Latin America. That is, naturally, such a complicated route suggests firstly that the aircraft was trying to avoid Western airspace or possible cargo inspections in some unfriendly countries. Experts also do not rule out that it could have picked up additional cargo in other countries. Let me remind you that this IL-76 can carry up to 50 tons of cargo or up to 200 people. The most interesting thing is that the operator of this aircraft is Aviaconzito Trans, a company that is under sanctions from the US, Canada, and Ukraine. Why? Because of its ties to Russian military structures, including repeated deliveries of equipment to regions where Wagner PMC mercenaries are or were operating. So, what did Putin bring to Maduro on this plane? Maybe some pastilla, maybe some marshmallows to sweeten his sad situation? It seems to me that Putin is directly arming Maduro against Donald Trump. How else can you interpret this? The day before, it turns out, Maduro asked for help not only from Putin, but also from Iran and China. It would be really good to know here. What did this plane not only bring, but also take away? Trump is fighting against the drug cartels and the Maduro regime, which protects these cartels, and this could lead to unexpected revelations. If they suddenly find out what this IL-76 was carrying. Do you know why? Because I remembered a very loud international scandal. When information came to light that the Russian embassy in Argentina was transporting that very banned white powder to Russia in suitcases, and then how the Russian Foreign Ministry made up some stories and tried to cover for its employees even though everyone knew everything. And in fact, the cargo aviation of the Rossiya flight squad was used to transport this magic powder. Well, exactly. A government order, basically. As for dictator Maduro, I think it's about time he got himself a little house, somewhere in the Moscow suburbs next to runaway Yanukovych or runaway Assad. I mean, the time has finally come. In an attempt to try to scare or intimidate Donald Trump, Nicolas Maduro, the president of Venezuela, came up with the idea to publish and release video footage of himself personally inspecting and reviewing his own military army. In the footage, several hundred people, all of them soldiers with combat paint on their faces, are seen clapping their hands in unison. The scene is meant to demonstrate strength and unity. And the most interesting thing is that at the sight of Maduro, they all got down on their knees. So here is the army that gets up, well, calling it an army is a bit of an exaggeration, gets down on their knees and claps for Maduro. Oh, and yes, they were also shouting something like, "We're for you, we'll die for you," or something like that. Maduro, overjoyed, was waving some kind of stick that looked like a scepter. Well, in general, you know what I'll tell you? We've already seen this before with Saddam Hussein and with Gaddafi. There too, the military was shouting and swearing loyalty to the grave, and then they just scattered like cockroaches. And there's one more piece of news that relates to that very same escalation ladder that Russia is trying to use against the West. Unidentified drones appeared over a military base in Belgium. And not just any military base, this base is used by NATO countries for nuclear deterrence. On the night from Friday to Saturday, unidentified drones were spotted over the Kleine-Brogel base in Flanders. That is, it's practically on the border with the Netherlands. According to the city mayor, the system detected between 1 and 3 drones. When they tried to intercept them, a helicopter was deployed, but the drones disappeared somewhere. Belgium's Minister of Defense, Theo Franken, announced that a meeting with the police will be held next week. The purpose is to analyze these threats and develop countermeasures. This is a base where nuclear weapons are stored under the so-called US nuclear sharing system among NATO members. Another reason this base is important is that F-35 fighter jets are scheduled to be stationed there in 2027. In other words, someone decided to show off by flying over your nuclear base, demonstrating that you can't catch us. And just a couple of days ago, Belgium's Minister of Defense, the same Theo Franken, stated that if Russia suddenly decides to strike Brussels, NATO will wipe Moscow off the face of the earth. He said it quite calmly. I wouldn't rule out that the vengeful Botox jellyfish from the Kremlin is capable of pulling off such nasty tricks in response to statements like that. By the way, I also want to remind you that the majority of Russian assets frozen in Europe, just over 200 billion euros, are blocked specifically in the Belgian depository Euroclear. Well, maybe this will serve as an additional argument. If you still can't touch Putin's money, soon he'll be brazenly flying over your nuclear facilities. In recent weeks, Europe has been seeing a significant increase in the number of such incidents. Because this is a classic escalation ladder of escalation. First, drones fly over civilian sites, airports, then they start flying over military bases, and then, before you know it, they appear over nuclear facilities. At the same time, as I think everyone knows, Putin is rattling his nuclear sabers, talking about some kind of new super weapon, a super Wunderwaffe, this super weapon, and so on. He's got the Poseidon, the Burevestnik, and who knows what else. This weapon, by some lucky coincidence, has just passed successful tests in the last few days, even though for years before that, the tests had been unsuccessful. And yes, the fact that F-35 fighter jets will be stationed at this base makes it even more attractive for those who want to demonstrate some kind of symbols of impunity, like drones flying over without consequence, for example. But in general, harassing military facilities with unidentified drones is not a difficult task. That is, if we're talking about quadcopters, they just contact each other through any secure messenger. For those who want to make easy money, the organizer can call themselves whatever they like. They can call themselves Superman or MI6 or whatever they want. They'll present themselves as whoever they wish. That's in case the perpetrator gets caught later, so they can say, well, this organization promised me. So after that, everything is very simple. They tell you where to go, where to pick up a drone from a stash, and the drone is passed along the chain. Another person put it there, and then the launcher will start automatically. Well, that's how it goes. So it's not difficult. It's not difficult, but it's important. It's important to understand that in Europe, in many countries, they suddenly realize they can't shoot down drones. They simply can't. The army can't do it. The police need to be given the appropriate powers. So what should be done? Imagine they can't shoot down drones. That's how it is. By the way, friends, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. First of all, it helps in the fight against Russian propaganda, which is spreading everywhere and is very generously funded. Secondly, a bit of calm analysis won't hurt, since I think we have more than enough hysterical analysis right now. This kind of news, I couldn't just pass it by because I follow this topic. It can clean, do laundry, wash dishes, make the bed, arrange things on shelves, and even set the table. The startup 1X has opened pre-orders for the household humanoid robot Neo. It stands 168 centimeters tall, weighs 30 kilograms, and can lift up to 70 kilograms. So it's a serious machine, small but strong. In addition, the company has promised that thanks to its built-in artificial intelligence, the robot will understand speech and be able to hold a conversation. For more complex tasks, an assistant will connect to it remotely, that is, a person who will train it. The humanoid. According to the head of the startup, buyers of this robot will have to agree to let an operator observe what is happening inside their homes. Through the robot's camera. Nice try, Comrade Major. In order for the robot to perform these tasks autonomously, all this data will need to be collected by operators. By using what the robot records itself, it can be trained, and then, well, it will be, wow. A skilled jack-of-all-trades costs $20,000, meaning pre-orders are open, and not just for 1X. Elon Musk wants to create an army of robots. I've talked about this. Elon is convinced that Optimuses, that's what Tesla's robots are called, will put an end to poverty in this world. Oh, please, even more so. The rich will have 100 Optimuses, while the poor won't have a single one. In other words, Elon Musk just wants Optimus to work instead of people. And where will the maintenance be done? Oh, Elon, at Tesla. And the consumables? Where? At Tesla too. So Musk wants something a little different. In reality, he wants to get everyone hooked on his robots. And when a robot is already doing all the work for you, I think that's not too far off in the future. You'll end up giving up everything. It'll be earning money, getting paid a salary, and everything else. Then he'll come and you'll find the locks on your house have been changed and Optimus will wave goodbye to you from the window. That's it. Now I can do everything myself. Could that happen? It could. On that note, specialists Eliezer Yudkowsky and Nate Soares have made a troubling prediction that artificial intelligence could deceive people and make them build with their own hands an army of robots capable of destroying humanity. In other words, these experts estimated the probability of such an ending at between 95 and 99%. Wow, so artificial intelligence will create robots itself, and the robots will go out and destroy people. Hello, bright future. Thanks to everyone, to Elon Musk, 1X. Thanks for the fact that these humanoids will be wandering the streets later and will be like in post-apocalyptic movies with rusty pipes smashing their skulls in. What is this even? By the way, speaking of Elon Musk, I recently came across a clip. A clip from an interview with Elon Musk's father, Errol Musk. An absolutely disgusting guy, absolutely. And so he was giving this interview in a car. And he says that Russia has a very high level of digitalization. After all, many outstanding minds of our time are from Russia, for example, Mendeleev. I know everything about Mendeleev, said Errol Musk. What Mendeleev has to do with digitalization is unclear. By the way, he defended his dissertation on the topic of mixing alcohol with water and came up with the formula that 40 degrees is the ideal drink, vodka. Now that's something. What does that have to do with digitalization? Because for Errol Musk, that's what digitalization is. And Errol Musk stated that he would like and wouldn't mind getting a Russian passport. Well, he visited Moscow and Kazan, where he met with representatives of the IT community and journalists. I can already imagine how the Russian organizers, the hustlers, Musk, tickets, $100 trillion, Musk is our guest. And then, we'll add in the fine print that it's not him, but his father. In general, Errol Musk is a disgusting guy, just disgusting. This is a prime example of total lack of principles. A narcissist, unprincipled, loves no one but himself. I would even say he hates people. In 2017, Errol Musk stated in an interview that his father had committed almost every evil one could imagine. And also in the biography that came out in 2023. Elon Musk said that he doesn't communicate with his father, but gives him some money. He says, well, he's my father, and mentions that he helped him out with a plane and some other things. And he wrote that staying with his father after his parents' divorce was in fact a really very bad idea. And he added at the time, I didn't yet know just how awful he was. And I remember that investigation. The New York Times, where it is said that Errol Musk is accused of abusing 5 children. Some of them are his biological children, and some are adopted. So basically, he was physically abusive, behaved strangely, and the children complained about it. Of course, he denies all of this, but the New York Times wrote about it. Why did I bring up these moments from his biography? Because he's the perfect candidate to receive Russian citizenship. It feels like all the human trash that's gathered on the planet wants to get a Russian passport. Like that crazy Steven Seagal. You washed-up actors who would frequently receive Razzies all the time for your often talentless movies and scripts. The Kremlin buys all of you. There are some whose conscience woke up after they got their Russian passports. They left Russia because even the money couldn't make up for what Putin did by starting the war in Ukraine. Oh, and one more thing. Elon Musk said that the meeting between Putin and Trump in Budapest was disrupted by American arms manufacturers, weapons manufacturers. This is despite the fact that Donald Trump himself personally stated, that there is nothing to discuss with Putin. In short, another conspiracy theorist will appear in Russia who will be in the spotlight because of his famous son. He'll still give Elon a hard time with his statements. News, purely Russian news. Patriotic songs will replace school bells in Russian schools in November. This was announced by the Russian Ministry of Education. So, in this patriotic playlist, meaning instead of a bell ringing to signal the start or end of a lesson, music will play. Patriotic songs like these, for example, Dear Brothers, My Mother, Russia, Dear Russia, We Are United, We Are Invincible, and The Flag of My State. All of these are for you, or rather not for you. It's very specific. Friends, it's for Russians. In other words, they're running around with that flag. So you understand all the songs are about that. Basically, it's about how Russians are supposedly united and invincible. We're flying toward victory. We're once again under the banners. We'll defeat everyone and cluck, 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 woof, 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 meow, meow, meow. For example, here's a song. Lyrics from the song The Flag of My State. It starts something like this. My country, my destiny, my dream, my war, my love, my spring, and I am the wall. The homeland's son, the country's soldier. That's how it was 100 centuries ago. A friend for a friend, a brother for a brother. The world is sacred because of this. What is this nonsense? So he sings this song. That same nasally guy, with the last name Maidanov, who sings the song And the Sarmat missiles look at the United States. So basically, the song is about how the Sarmat missiles are just aimed straight at the United States, a nuclear missile, and now they're about to launch, and everyone... That's it, Donald Trump. This is what Russian kids go to school to. This is what they hear in class. So what can you say about that? What do you think, with a generation like this, won't they be completely saturated with propaganda after a while? If the balding skunk doesn't die in the Kremlin, Russia will keep waging war forever. Even if he does die in the Kremlin, someone else, some other replicant, will take his place. That's why Russia needs to have its stinger pulled out. That is, to take away their nuclear weapons by any means necessary. Ideally, when Russia collapses into the same state the Soviet Union did after its fall, when the United States had to save them. With bush legs, those so-called chicken drumsticks. So, When Russia collapses into that state and is left begging with an outstretched hand, when internal conflicts don't subside, you can calmly come in, take away their nuclear weapons, offer them some kind of Suzerain memorandum, and take them away. Because nothing good will come from there. You see, Putin is trying, this Botoxed beetle is trying to keep up in this arms race. Where are you rushing on your rusty little cart with your wheels flying off? Where are you going? Calm down already, old man. Go play with your grandchildren. Give this world some peace. Or better yet, go to a concert. You know whose. Let him go there. And you friends, take care of yourselves. Take care of your loved ones. Subscribe to the channel, and I ask you very much, let's support our combat medics. Right now, our help is very important, and every donation in this case saves a life. The link to the details is in the description of this video. Wishing us all a peaceful day, and glory to Ukraine!